first class of my sophomore year, I sat down next to this guy in English class and introduced myself, and he introduced himself, and that is how my husband and I met. So American Lit, who was great. He got better grades than me and worked way less than I did, so it was always frustrating me.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our podcast, Enjoy College on Purpose. This podcast is all about helping people make the most of college. My name is Ish. I'm your host today, and I'm also a traveling speaker. I speak in a lot of college spaces to college students. And one thing I know about college students is you're busy. And so what I want to do with this episode is I want to keep it at 20 or 25 minutes. Go and get somebody who I think is super talented and super awesome. And we're just going to have a conversation. We're going to dive into some of their college experience, what they do now professionally, and then all of that, try and dig for some insights on how to make the most out of college today. And so I'm really excited about my guest today. Taylor Parra is jumping onto the podcast, and I'll let Taylor chat here in just a second about what she does professionally. But the reason I wanted to invite Taylor is when I think about Taylor, we worked together for a couple of years, and the best way I can describe Taylor is the difference between good and great. Certainly, I've been connected to a lot of people who are just good, great, quality workers, can put out a really valuable product that people will pay money for. And then when Taylor enters the picture, it becomes like a trend-setting thing. It just takes it to a whole nother level, and it is a life-changing experience. And so that's what I remember the most about my time working with Taylor. And so Taylor, after that glowing
Thank you.
endorsement.
Yes, that was amazing.
How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Yeah, just excited to talk to you, excited to hop on here.
Taylor, one of the first questions we always ask our guests is take about a minute or so and just brag about yourself. Really what I'm looking for is I want to hear about what does professional life look like for you? Tell me about personal life as much as you'd be willing to share there. But just take a minute and catch us up on what's going on in Taylor's life today.
Yeah, I am a mother of 5. I've been married about 13 years. My husband CJ and I got married when we were 21 and 22, fresh out of college. We started having kids about 5 years ago, so we've, doubled our population of the Parra family. I went to Liberty University. I spent half of my time in college as an athlete. And since then, I've been building a career in marketing and graphic design, photography, kind of like a jack of all trades in those areas. I do marketing for a winery, and I also do marketing for myself for kind of a small business I have on the side for our family.
You started to allude into your college experience a little bit.
Yes.
As an athlete. So this was, I'm assuming, a bachelor's degree. What sport did you play?
I played softball at Liberty University, which is a D1 school.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Nice. What position?
Catcher.
Catcher.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. So did the college experience, were you an on-campus or off-campus resident?
On campus.
On campus?
Yep.
And then paint a little bit of a picture of like what your typical course load looked like. Were you the person who was like 9 to 12 hours, or were you like hitting it hard and doing 18 hours a semester?
Well, I was an athlete. I kind of fell in the middle. Especially my freshman year, I took it easy. I took a few semesters full course load, but we traveled a lot. We went to Hawaii. It was just a constant traveling schedule. And then previous to that, in high school, I also played tournament ball. So the pace of life that I had was just like full tilt, always on the go, always working my body, working out, being with the team. It was a pace of life that was, very fast and always moving. The first part of my college experience.
This is so fascinating because, you mentioned this earlier as far as what you do professionally. Mm-hmm. Certainly you've got a marketing skill set that you leverage for businesses, organizations, whatever. And then you've also leveraged it for promoting personal values. I know you're a big champion of not only the family, but even like kind of being present.
Yes.
And Sabbath and rest. Would you, and this is so fascinating, I didn't tell you we'd talk about this, but as you're describing kind of this fast pace, go, traveling all over the place.
Yeah.
How much of that is influencing you championing right now? Like, how would you speak into, wow, this is why this is so important to me now, especially coming out of this background? Or are those like not related?
I mean, I think it's all related. It's all related from when I started college and even before that when I was on the tournaments and travel schedule. And then it kind of morphed into the rest of my college existence. I mean, it feels like there's never really a break. You're always going, you're always, there's always something to do. And then, you graduate and you hit, like the workforce or you go back to school.
Mm.
But and I don't know, like, I grew up in the evangelical tradition, and I think of all the strengths that has, one of the things that I was never taught was actually how to rest and how to refrain
Mm.
from the striving of academics or job or workload or, even personal household stuff. Like, I treated every single day, all 7 days, as kind of equal to disperse the workload. So I think
Mm.
after experiencing burnout in college, burnout probably late 20s, and kind of the disillusionment of like where my life was, I think Sabbath entered the conversation. And if you don't know what Sabbath is, it's basically a Jewish tradition,
Yeah.
and it's the pause of 24 hours to delight, to experience joy, and to rest from your work, from your striving, from whatever you consider like getting ahead means.
Yeah. No, and I love that you've championed that idea. I've never shared this with you, but my wife and I, we practice a version of Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Friday to sundown to Saturday
Mm-hmm.
sundown, kind of
Yes.
that 24-hour period. And for us, it's just like it's a marked 24 hours
Mm-hmm.
that looks different than the rest of the week. So for example, for me, like we'll tap into like rest day. Like I don't even go to the gym, do anything like that. Work perspective, that all takes a pause. We will have like a great meal on Friday night
Mm-hmm.
and just be together. I want to talk a little bit more about your college journey. And one of the
Yes.
questions we love to ask is your two favorite memories. When you look back on your college experience and all the hustle and bustle, what stands out as like your two coolest memories from your time in college?
Yeah, one of them I definitely think has to be sophomore year of college. Literally the first day, first class of my sophomore year, I sat down next to this guy in English class and introduced myself, and he introduced himself, and that is how my husband and I met. So American Lit, who was great. He got better grades than me and worked way less than I did, so it was always frustrating me. So that's one of my most favorite memories. And then I think my freshman year, the softball team went to Hawaii to play in like a huge tournament out there, a huge gathering. And yeah, I got some playtime. I got my first hit out there. So that was a huge, like, you're in paradise playing softball for free. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It's so fascinating that you're talking about meeting CJ
Yeah.
there in American Lit as part of your college journey.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly, a big part of the college experience is romance. I mean, it just ends up being a part of the college experience, and it takes up time,
It
energy.
does.
Right, you're already
Yeah.
there for school and dealing with roommates, and there's
Mm-hmm.
already so much else going on. If you're an athlete, even more so,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you include this romance component
Mm-hmm.
into your college experience. And so when you think about romance in college, like is there one or two ideas that float to the top of your mind of like, hey, this really worked for me while I was navigating romance in college, or maybe even like here's something I wish I would have done
Yeah.
while navigating romance in college.
I think for me personally, I try not to do anything by accident. I think one of the best pieces of advice that I've ever been given is begin as you mean to go. And that's
Mm.
applied kind of like with, I mean, in all spectrums from family life to dating to marriage. And I had strong opinions, values of what I wanted in a mate, and then also how I wanted dating to look. It's also one of the reasons why I knew I wanted to go to a Christian university. I knew my weaknesses in terms of like who I'm with, and what I seek out, and I wanted to like kind of stack the deck in my favor. But I also knew what I wanted, and although I didn't do everything perfectly, it set me up for success in finding what I wanted to find, along with God and prayer and being wise and having good community around you. I think beginning as you mean to go. If you want a godly husband, then date godly men. And if you want, I think, you can kind of use that logic for anything. Begin as you mean to go. And then just don't lose sight on that. I think, deciphering and praying into wisdom of what you want and what you need, or what God wants and what God needs from you, all plays a part in it. So I think it's like, don't let your desires that you think are just, don't let them come to the forefront. Like, remain in community, remain honest with people. Yeah, and begin as you mean to go.
These two concepts of like intent and
Hmm.
almost even environment or surroundings.
Yeah.
And that environment and surroundings component really floats to the top of my mind for me right now as you're describing it. In just a handful of different leadership sessions, there comes a point where we start to talk about like what a healthy plan, a healthy structure for whatever your goal is that you're
Yeah.
trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
We'll talk about things like, what's your game plan, what are your little goals, things
Yeah.
like that. But then one of them is like, know your environment, because if you have like the greatest game plan in the world, perfect goals, and yet like the environment, the surroundings around you is it's not healthy, it's not good for the goal that you're trying to pursue, what you intending to accomplish,
Yes.
man, it can just shortchange or accentuate, like amplify whatever
Hmm.
it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so I love that you're highlighting these two different ideas of the intent in the environment, or
Yes.
your surroundings as you're chasing this down. You were also a college athlete,
Hmm.
obviously, with these like amazing trips to Hawaii, going to big tournaments, and all that goes with that. Obviously, there are a lot of college students who also do athletics, whether
Hmm.
they're on scholarship, not on scholarship, or for whatever the reason may be. It's something else that goes into navigating their college experience, their
Yeah.
college journey. And so when you think about your own experience as an athlete,
Hmm.
similar to the romance question, is there one or two things that you're just like, hey, this really worked for me, that was helpful in college, or maybe here's something I wish I would have done as an athlete while navigating college?
Yeah. And like I said, I played softball my first half of my college career. And I think for me, it was grit and determination that really got me through the first half. And I think for a lot of college athletes, you're battling injuries, like mental stuff, physical stuff. Just like anything in life, you need to, I think, know when to call it quits, when to push through, when to listen to your body, when to push your body, when to listen to your mind, when to push your mind. And I know a lot of athletes, and also going back and coaching softball players after, the mental game is just as tough as the physical game. And then a lot of times, depending on where you are, the spiritual isn't even factored in to being an athlete and also being an academic. So it's like you're all a person. It's like your mind, your body, your soul, it's all a working organism. And so often we try to like take them apart and just fix one and think that's going to, to fix everything. So in terms of that, I think encouraging athletes and, non-athletes alike to not forget that your body is a whole thing. You can't take one thing out and fix it. Your sexuality, your mind, your wit and your smarts, like you can't take them apart and just do life healthily in one category. They're all connected. So for athletes, there, I think, in how busy you are in the double and the duality pace of life, you need to definitely make sure that, like, all of your systems, from your soul, your mind, your body, are all firing on all cylinders. If something is offset, you're going to feel it in every area.
Oh my goodness. I feel like you're sitting in a lot of like the coaching and consulting things that I get to do. I always talk about it. We've got four different energies as people:
Hmm.
physical, emotional, mental, psychological, whatever your
Yeah.
preferred word is, and spiritual. And like these are like the human body's very complex, a lot going on in it. And it's super important to just kind of, at least I narrow it down to these four, but like take a just a regular assessment of like how are these going, because you're totally right, crushing it in any one of these is not going to automatically deal with the others.
Right.
So I'm really, really curious, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but you're coaching, you're working with a college athlete who clearly, whatever their life is, they're very unsatisfied with life,
Yes.
hyper stressed, whatever. And you highlight this idea of like, hey, you're a person, all these different things going on. Like, what kind of an assessment or what kind of next steps do you ask them to take to evaluate, to
Yeah.
take the temperature on the different pieces of being a human?
Yeah. There's definitely two different approaches. One, if the student has a background where, God controls their story, if that life is dedicated to glorifying him, or I worked, as a coach for, students that like most likely did not have any faith story yet. First of all, I mean, as a coach, it's all about relationship. I can say different things depending on the relationship I have with the student, regardless of their faith. If it's a student that has faith in Jesus Christ, we're going to be looking at like, okay, where are we feeling, great? Where are we not feeling great? And why, not that everything is just like, oh, do this and it's fixed, but like you're looking for balance, or even if it's something is uncomfortable, you're looking for at least growth in an area. If there's not a faith platform, it kind of turns into mindfulness. Like you're trying to at least get them to tune into who they are and the soul that is put in their, in that makes them them. So just like trying to, touch the divine, touch the created, to even bring out some of the aspects of health that are usually neglected by way of, all sorts of things that like wage war against the human soul. Like, so just trying to sort through that and the wounds from that. But each, people of faith, people of not faith, like battle the same things. So I think it's realizing too that like there is an enemy, especially if you are a believer, there is an enemy that doesn't want you to be healthy on any of those categories and wants to keep you numb or distracted or, just in a fog of busyness.
Thank you so much for speaking into that. And
Yeah.
I absolutely love, hey, the relational component. Gosh, that's one of the things I remember you harped on a lot when we worked together. Relationships were like king,
Yeah.
in some of the programs that you and I led together. And then even just kind of this other component, like whether the faith piece is involved or the faith piece it isn't involved, like there's still like something going on, something bigger, something underlying that's worth tapping into to try and navigate
Yeah,
and make
and I
sense out of
and I
this.
will say that I had great relationships with student athletes that I knew that I was a believer, and they, didn't have any interest in it, or they kind of did. They wanted to know my opinion. They wanted kind
Mm-hmm.
of like what I had, meaning like peace and just like a sense of identity and just like, you can weather a storm. I could say some really hard things to them within the context of relationships. So I think, it's all about relationship. It's all about the strength of that relationship and the trust to speak into someone's life, regardless of, where they are with God.
So another fun question we like to ask
Yes.
is, what do you know now that you wish you knew as a college student?
Yeah, I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. Like, I made a lot of mistakes in college. I'll just put, I'm not perfect. And I think knowing what I know now and how I kind of create my life with my husband, create our life with our family. I think the biggest things are, I think a lot of the things in life can be boiled down to like how aware are you of like your place in creation, like who you are, who you were made to
Mm,
be, and what like the good life is. And to do that, in my opinion, is you have to defer to the creator who made you. And so
mhm,
often in my college experience, I'm like, I think, I can do this. I'm strong enough to do this. Like, we'll go this way. And due to the pace of it, I never had time to sit back and like feel my feelings, to keep myself not distracted. Like, distraction is one of the main enemies of, I think, college kids, like, adults, we're distracted by everything, our phones, everything. And so the time that I did not have undistracted was very minimal. And I think if you don't have time where you're just sitting with God and yourself for an elongated period of time without your phone, without, anything to distract you, that would be what I would go back and tell myself. Like, you need some time to reconnect with God, reconnect with yourself, reconnect with creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other question that we like to put out there to our guests is, and it's connected to kind of the professional background that you bring
Mm-hmm.
into the table, but, say a school brings you and in front of you is, 30 students who are all a part of their marketing program.
Mm-hmm.
They're at the school, and you get kind of just an opportunity for a few minutes to just share, hey guys, here's what you should know going into this trajectory that you're pursuing. What do you share?
I think marketing is all about, again, I think it's about how you're projecting yourself and how you're relating to
Mm,
what you're marketing, what you're selling. A lot of it is tone. A lot of it is, how you sound. Some of it is how creative you are. But I think in marketing, I work for a winery right now, and market biodynamic organic wine that is like has sustainable farming practices. It's something I believe in. And I think, same thing, I'm doing for me personally. I'm talking about what rhythms are you putting in life? What rhythms
mm,
are you creating around you with God, with what rhythms He's put into creation? And I think anything with marketing, like the creativeness that God, God is a creator, you are a creator as a marketer. And I think really tapping into just being and selling or talking about something and creating is paramount. Like, you're not just pushing, you're creating. And I think that's, there's a lot
mm.
of like interwebs in that. But I think when you think about creation and marketing, that's always the spin I like to take on it.
That's a great little nuance there. It's a difference between pushing and creating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a nugget that's going to roll around in my head for some time. Taylor,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate you being on the podcast today. If any of our listeners want to connect with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Yeah, I love to connect with people on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, though it is very, very slim people. But yeah, Instagram at Taylor Parra. You can see kind of what we do on our homestead and kind of like what we're doing there. But yeah, DM me. I'm on Facebook. Like, I'd love to chat. I love college students. Like, it's a crazy, crazy time of life.
Awesome. Thanks so much for jumping on the podcast.
Yeah.
And to all of our listeners, thanks for jumping on today's episode of Enjoy College on Purpose. If today's episode was really, really valuable to you, I have a major request. Could you please leave a rating and a comment there on the platform that you're listening to this episode on? This is actually very, very helpful as we spread the word on the podcast and allows us to help out as many people as possible. And so once again, thanks again for listening, and we'll see y'all next time.